Hello, class. All right, so today we're still continuing our work with three-digit numbers or numbers up to 1,000. And today specifically, we're working with rounding numbers. Now, on an assignment or on an assessment or even in class, you may be asked to round to the nearest 10 or the nearest 100 or the nearest 1,000 or so on. But today, since we're working still with three-digit numbers, you are rounding to either the nearest 10 or the nearest 100. Okay? When you do that, like let's say we're going to round the number 802, and we're going to round the number 802 to the nearest 10. Okay, so this is the tens value here, the 0 there. You're going to look immediately to the number on the right, here on your right hand side, okay, and that is the number 2. So if we are rounding to the nearest 10, we've got to look at the ones to determine if we're going to round up or stay the same. So if we look to the number 2, okay, that's in the ones place, if the number is 5 or greater, then we will round up. If the number is 4 or less, then we will stay the same. So this number is 2, so it's 4 or less. So that means we're going to cross that number out and make it a 0. Okay? All right? And so our answer here, if we round to the nearest tens, because the 0 stays the same, of course the hundreds spot stays the same, so that's going to be the number 800. All right, and writing with this thing again is difficult. All right, so if we go down here, let's go to the next number, 758. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to round to the nearest 10. So here's the tens, it's the 5, okay? We're going to look immediately to the ones, okay? The ones spot is the number 8, which is 5 or greater, which means we're going to round the 10 spot up 1 to a 6. So this answer, if we round 758 to the nearest tens, is going to be 760. Okay? And that would be our answer. Now, you may also be asked to round to the nearest hundreds. Okay? So we're going to look at the 100 spot. We're going to look at the number immediately to the right, which is in the 10 spot this time, not the 1 spot. All right? So rounding to the nearest 100, we look to the 1 spot, and we have a 6, which is 5 or greater, which means we're going to round the 3 up 1, rounding the 3 up to a 4. And the other two numbers, the 10s and the 1 spot, are going to be replaced with zeros. So 361 rounded to the nearest 100 spot is 400. All right? We can do the same with 942. We look here, if we're rounding to the nearest hundreds, we look here to the number 4, okay, in the 10 spot. It is 4 or lower, so that means the number 9 will stay the same, and we will replace the 10s and 1 spot with a 0, so we have 900. And there you go, 900 is our answer. Now we have a few more that we're going to do before I let you do your independent work. 516 and 222. Okay, so 516, we are going to round to the nearest tens spot, okay? So 10 spot, the number 1 is in the 10 spot. The number 6 is in the 1 spot. That's what we're looking at. All right, and since it is 5 or greater, we're going to round the number 1 up to the number 2. So your answer is 520. 20 because we're going to replace that 6 with a 0. That's what rounding is. We replace it with a 0. 520 is 516, rounded to the nearest 10 spot. Okay, 222, we're going to round to the nearest 100. So we're going to look at here's our 100 spot. We're going to look at our tens spot. We can go ahead and make the 1 spot a 0. Okay. The 10 spot is a 2, so it's 4 or lower. So that means the 100 spot will stay the same. It will be a 2, and we will replace the 10s and the 1 spot with a 0. Okay, so our answer is 200 when you round 222 to the nearest hundreds. And that, pretty simply, is rounding. No matter how big the number is, whatever the problem calls for, whatever it asks you for, if it asks you to round to the nearest millions, you're going to always go back 1 spot to the right. Okay, so if it's to the millionths, you're going to round to the nearest millionths. You're going to look at the 100,000ths value in order to round up or stay the same. Okay, and then you replace everything to the right of the number that you rounded, everything to the right of the value that you rounded. You're going to replace all of those numbers with zeros. Okay, and that's it, class. Have a good day.